Introducing the Egyptian Theater News Team, live from downtown DeKalb with Aaron Cronin, Brandon Pugh, Alex Nerad, Janine Holcomb, Nora Reeves, Cody Williams, Peter Lindsay, Alejandro Tracani. The Egyptian Theater News Team coming to you live on Facebook at the top of the hour, every hour on May 5th for Give DeKalb County. Get ready for lights, camera, donate.
Hello everyone and welcome back. It is 10 a.m. so you know what that means. It's time to go live at the top of the hour. Thank you all for joining us. If you haven't heard, it is Give DeKalb County today, Thursday, May 5th, a 24-hour day of giving. Started at midnight and goes till midnight tonight. And let's see, we are already on the board. We are at $3,196 of our $25,000 goal today. Huge jump from the last hour. We had a lot of those mail-in donations come in. So let's get to the donor list to thank some great people that have given so far to the Egyptian Theater today. So we've got coming to us Patricia Bastian, Larry and Kate Burke, Ava Bickner, James and Karen Buck, Robin and Robert Conrad, Lee and Jeff Gorman, Lynn Hansen, Jocelyn Holtz, Jim and Gail Horn, Melissa and Charlie Eric, Jennifer, thank you Jennifer, very elusive, Renee, John, and Chewy, and that is our first dog donation of the day. So if you've been paying attention, thank you, Bark Bark. We've got a donation in, and it is my nephew as a dog, so I'm pretty biased towards him. Roger McCullum, Tracy Mobley, Gretchen Moore, Carrie and Roger Nelson, Judy O'Connor, Cindy Pogel, Elizabeth Shuey, and Shane Sharp. So thank you to everyone who donated over the past hour. A lot of those are some of the mail-in donations. Reminder, if you did mail in, we have another batch that'll come at 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. So if you haven't seen your name on the board yet and you mailed in your donation, we haven't forgotten you. They're just rolling them out in batches. So let's get to the moment of the hour. We have our next guest. I believe they're up. Let me just give a check. They are ready up in the next studio. We have Randy Caspersen, a filmmaker who debuted one of his films here just a few weeks ago and a volunteer. So let's send it up to Alex with our next special guest.
Thanks, Janine. I'm up here in our projection booth with our next special guest, Randy Caspersen. Have many titles in association with the theater, volunteer, filmmaker, and also work at NIU. Can you give us a quick introduction about what you do here in the community?
I teach, I'm what's my title? Associate Professor at NIU. I teach filmmaking, live TV production, and script writing, and I work in the Department of Communications. I also am a filmmaker. Oftentimes students from the university, grad students and undergrads help me on my films. So that's what I do at the university. And I make films, some films in the local community, like documentaries about cool things that are happening here, or cool community organizations that are happening. And I also am a frequent attendee of the Egyptian Theater.
Yeah, we've been excited to have you here, both helping as a volunteer, but on stage kind of presenting films here. A couple years ago, you premiered, I believe, a documentary here. And just a couple of weeks ago, you also had another documentary. Want to talk about those real quick?
The one that I did a few years ago was the sort of world premiere exhibition of something called Go Penguins. It was about a local group of theater people who are kids and young adults with disabilities putting on a musical, but they play the lead roles, and I followed them for a few years and created a documentary about them, and we debuted it here before it went out to the film festival world and things like that. A few weeks ago, I debuted another film that was about the local community, and that was about the creation of a monarch way station, a place where monarchs and other pollinating insects and animals come. And it was a project by a local church community who wanted to help the plight of the disappearing monarchs. And I followed them for a few years too, as the garden grew and as they got the community involved. And yeah, we showed it here. It wasn't the official debut because I finished it during the pandemic.
Okay.
So it's been playing at festivals online, but it is the first time we'll show it in person.
Local
Or showed
premiere.
Showed it
Local
in
premiere?
person.
Yeah.
It's a local premiere and also the first time it was shown in a theater.
Okay.
Otherwise, it was just streaming at various festivals around the country.
Yeah, so not only have you shown films here that you've put together, but we've had multiple students from NIU also film stuff here. Just a couple weeks ago as well, we had a NIU student in here all day long filming using the beautiful background of the theater. So really, the theater started in 1929 showing film, and so obviously there's over 90 years of history here of showing film, and here we are in the projection booth with our beautiful carbon arc 35 millimeter projectors. They still work.
Smell them. They smell like an old Bolex camera.
So, most of what we do nowadays is live events, but we do still show films. And being host to the largest movie screen in DeKalb County, we always talk about seeing a movie in the Egyptian Theater is a totally different experience. Can you talk a little bit for our viewers from a filmmaker perspective? What is it like being able to show a film and see one of your films here on a huge screen in this big, beautiful theater?
Well, when I create the film, you don't really create it to be watched at home on your computer. You create it for a space like this. Big screen, all your attention is focused on it. It's big, it's taking up all your senses. I feel like I don't really see a film until I see it in the big screen. And so it's really valuable to show it here, but also to see films in that way. I've seen a lot of not only have I shown films here, I also have seen a lot of you do a horror series in fall. You've done some 35 millimeter series. I've been to some of those events, and there's nothing like seeing it in a movie theater. I love multiplexes, I enjoy them, but being in a sort of movie palace experience, especially since you guys redid the lobbies, the bathrooms, the floors, and you got this beautiful projection system, which I'm really excited to see
more films here.
More films, yeah. But so that experience just can't be replaced even nowadays with bigger screens at home and on computers. So I hope people are, since the pandemic, also going to the theaters more as well to see that. So that's why I love that.
Yeah, and over the last 2 years, people watched a lot of content at home, whether it was Netflix and Hulu and movies and all sorts of streaming stuff. But even the biggest screen you can get at home is nothing compared to a screen like here at the Egyptian Theater. And I always like telling people when we give tours here all the time, when we show classics like Gone with the Wind and Wizard of Oz, people say, man, I've seen that film at home dozens and dozens of times. And when I saw it here, I saw things I've never noticed before. I heard things I've never noticed before. So it really is a totally different experience to be able to see, something on the big screen here. Can you talk about, with your students in class, what that means to have a venue and a historic theater like this in town, that they have those opportunities to go see films or to make films here?
Well, the student that you referred to earlier was my student, and he's a real film buff, and he has a lot of romantic feelings about sort of old Hollywood and spaces like this. But I also think it's just valuable. I think the students are used to seeing things on little screens or even on their phones, which is fine, especially for some content can be driven that way, but something like a feature film really needs the big screen viewing experience. And to have that locally as part of sort of the university, I was saying to kids when I wanted to get them to my screening a few weeks ago, I'm like, you gotta see it on the big screen, you gotta see this space, because a lot of them haven't seen films in person in front of a big screen for a while, and also not a space like a movie palace where there's hundreds and hundreds of seats, and there's architecture to see, and statues and things like that. For the community, we've been talking a lot about films, and I love that about the Egyptian Theater, and it was originally a movie palace, but a lot of things happen here that aren't just screenings. Like I've seen local concerts here. Well, of course, they're all local when you have them, but I've seen concerts here. They do some theater here, like that group you talked about, the Penguin Project.
Yeah.
They're brought by the Children's Community Theater. They do a lot of their shows here, and so it's really, I always think about it's a miracle that it's here in a lot of ways, because a lot of small or middle-range towns don't have a movie palace to call their own, especially one that's been so well sort of taken care of. So it's like a gift every day. I'm so glad, and I walked here from my house. I bought a house 1.5 years ago, and I got to walk here, and that's
very cool.
A special thing.
Yeah.
To not have to drive somewhere to have an experience like this. So it's really important for, I live in DeKalb, but the whole community to have. And then when we make films, to show them here too. So yeah, it's really, I don't know, it overwhelms me sometimes. I also worked in a theater in college.
Okay.
I'm in a movie palace.
Yeah.
And I love the smells. I love the many spaces, the
There's
screens.
a lot of interesting smells and spaces.
I even volunteer here because
Yeah.
I want to sort of have moments of that. Like when I volunteered at Rocky Horror, I used to do the midnight shows in the Oriental Theater in Milwaukee.
Okay.
And that was at midnight, and I wouldn't get home till 3. But I love some of that experience too, having the audience come in and enjoy something for the first or 12th time, smelling the popcorn, seeing the costumes, cleaning up after them as they go home.
Yep, we've done that many of times
Yes,
here.
I know.
So, yeah, it's, so many of these theaters in the 60s and 70s really kind of lost their momentum and sadly closed and were torn down. And then over these last 10 years, you have communities all across the U.S. that are like, man, we'd really love to have a beautiful, movie theater or performing arts center in our community, and have to put in $100 million, $150 million to recreate these things that unfortunately their communities let go. And so we are really fortunate here that DeKalb saw the value in this building, even though in the 70s it was in such rough shape, that saved it and that we still have it here, because there are so many communities that can't even afford to think about having something like this. And so we need to make sure, and part of what we're raising funds for today is to make sure that we never have to see a day where DeKalb doesn't have the Egyptian Theater, and that we make sure that the Egyptian Theater is around for many, many generations to come. For filmmakers like you, for your students, for film buffs out there, and people that enjoy the live concerts and shows as well. So as we kind of wrap up here, for donors out there or just general community members that could be a donor today, what do you say to them? Why is it important? Why should they give? Why should they donate today to support the Egyptian Theater?
Well, I'm trying to think. The last time I donated, it was during one of the many, what do you call them? You've been redoing the theater.
Now capital campaigns.
Yeah, and I donated for that because, getting back to what you were just saying, I just don't want to imagine this community without a space like this, without being able to go to a movie screen or a theater event, or just seeing the building itself. It means so much to have a hub where you can do all those sorts of things. And it's such a beautiful place. I don't know, I can't imagine it going away. I know when you were doing all the repairs and remodeling, if we want to call it that, I was really kind of hankering to get back in, and that was during COVID. So I really miss this space. So
Yeah.
if anyone's ever been here, or it's worth the money to donate to keep it going, as well as just showing up here and doing one of the many events as well.
Yeah, so donate today. Also buy a ticket, come to something. And if you're wanting to see more films, like the films that Randy puts on our big screen, donating today can help make sure that the Egyptian Theater is going to be around for many, many years to come, with lots of more films in the future to be shown on our silver screen. So thank you, Randy, for joining us this hour. And I'm going to send it back to Janine.
Thank you, Alex. It's always fun to be up in the projection booth, one of my favorite rooms. We even had someone comment, thank you, Trudy. She said she used to run a theater with some of that equipment and is so excited to see it still working, and we are as well. So excited to have a volunteer and filmmaker talk with us today. A really great conversation with Alex, but let's take a look at the leaderboard. We have moved. We've moved up in the past, 10 minutes since he's talked with Randy? $3,296. So we are now 13% lucky, 13 on the way to our $25,000 goal today. So very exciting day of giving. If you haven't given yet, you have until midnight tonight. We've made it really easy for you. You just go to lightscameradonate.org. It's going to take you right here Just click on donate and your dollar again goes farther today with that bonus pool that is currently at $155,000. So thank you to everyone who has donated so far, and thank you in advance to everyone who is planning on donating today. We will go live again at 11 a.m. with our next special guest who is coming in from the East Coast, virtually of course, so I'm very excited for that next special guest. And tune in at the noon hour. We have a little special teaser preview that me and Alex are going to share with y'all. And we have a bunch more exciting guests coming up the rest of the day. Remember, we are going live at the top of the hour every hour until 9 o'clock tonight in an effort to make that $25,000 goal today. So thank you for tuning in at the 10 o'clock hour. We will see you at the top of the next one at 11 a.m. Have a great one, guys.